Depression. My father grew up in public housing. He was actually expelled from high school because he didn't see the value of education, and he was a truant. Conversely, my mother's father had a trade. He was a skilled draftsman. For him, he was able to stitch together enough work in the Great Depression to keep their 3-room home. There's one picture of my mother in the Great Depression. She has on her only Sunday dress. She's sitting on a beautiful lawn, and it's a beautiful day. There's a rabbit in her lap. And of course, being a kid, you say, what comes to mind? How come we're not allowed to have a rabbit as a pet? She looked at us, not pet, dinner. They lived off the land to get through that trying time in this country. They raised rabbits and chickens. They had the big truck patch garden. They saved the summer feast, or the summer harvest, for a winter's feast. I was pretty much raised with those common sense values. You didn't spend more than you took in, and you always saved something, because there would always be a calamity. But my parents promised me the greatness of America. I didn't realize it at first when I was 10 years old and had that conversation with Dad, who said it didn't matter, I was born a girl. I could be whatever I wanted to be, as long as I decided, committed, worked hard, and had fortitude. I was born in 1962. It doesn't seem shocking to me that he would have said it exactly like that in that time. But for me, all I wanted to do was be a police officer. Blame it on crime drama on television, getting off the school bus, but 1 out of 12, I loved reading Malloy, and I just wanted to be just like him. Although I wouldn't be knocking it down in LA, it would be somewhere close to home. But I saw that as the ceiling in my life, not a beginning. It was a teacher in high school. I took a class with him, and I fell in love with the law. And he said that is the beginning, not an ending, and always be open to the possibility. But I actually believe that you had to be from that kind of a family, that you had to be the son or a daughter of a lawyer or a dentist or a doctor to rise, to go to a law school. And when I was a law enforcement officer, you came into contact with men and women who were lawyers and judges. And it was then I realized they weren't so much different than me. It was also when I was on the witness stand being cross-examined poorly by a lawyer, I actually said, wow, I don't really think he's that smart. I actually think I can go to law school too. And that was my catalyst. But along my way, beyond my parents and that high school teacher, I've had great mentors, great believers who see the world I see. For me, it was an unfathomable journey to make it to the Ohio Supreme Court. In truth, I am the first south of the 70 Beltway in more than 40 years. The first. As you look across Ohio and you look at who makes up the complexion of the 7 who sit there, you have them from Cleveland, Toledo, and Franklin County. One farmer from Bucyrus. And then you have me, Southwest Ohio. I do think differently than the others. And I do believe it's because I come from Southwest Ohio. There is a different value set in how you think and in how you speak. I tend to be very direct. For some people, it makes them uncomfortable. For others, it's a breath of fresh air. I saw the future of Ohio in May of 2010 when Tom Moyer died. He was the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court at that time, and I knew a secret. I knew something that I've been talking about now for the last 4 years, and I want to share it with you. Our government, whether you look at the federal Constitution or the Ohio Constitution, it is based and founded on the same principle, that there are 3 branches of government that work in concert, and it is only when they work in concert our voice is heard. In the U.S. Constitution, if you look at the first article, they created the legislative branch. In Ohio, it's Article 2. I actually gave you this book. It's a book I share with students across Ohio, senior citizens, Rotarians, and Kiwanians. But I lay out here the roadmap of what the Ohio Constitution looks like, with 99 members in the House and 33 members in the Senate. It was not a mistake that the Founding Fathers gave us our voice in government in Article 1, nor is it a mistake that that's what happened under Article 2 of the Ohio Constitution. The third article under the Ohio Constitution is the creation of the executive branch, for who will give effect to your voice without them. You pick up the phone, you make a law through your representative. It is then the executive branch who is to implement it and enforce it. It is not an afterthought that the judiciary comes along, but I do find it in its correct place by the Founding Fathers and by the state. Now, there are some judges who say that they don't like being called the third branch of government. I don't. I find it refreshing to understand my proper place in government. See, I wasn't created in front of the legislator, your voice. How could I be? Because the government isn't controlled by people in robes. It isn't controlled by those who serve in the executive branch. It is controlled by us. And we have the same voice. I like to vote on election day. It's a tradition. Sometimes I've had to vote early because I've had other commitments. But I'll vote on election day just like you at my polling place. And I can pick up the phone and call Margie, who's my state representative, and say there ought to be a law. And there are times I'll run into her at church. If I miss my mass at 8 a.m. at my church, I'll go to her noon mass at her church. And I have the opportunity to stop her in a parking lot and say, Margie, there ought to be a law. But that's where our voice ends. I don't get a third voice because I was elected to a judicial post. And I am in the proper place as the third branch of government because it's our will that works first and foremost. I ran for Ohio Supreme Court because I knew the secrets that I'm about to share with you. You have nothing. We have nothing. We have no voice if we do not elect conservative judges to the Ohio Supreme Court, judges that will allow your voice to be heard and your laws to live. We have nothing. It takes 4 people to strike down a law at the Ohio Supreme Court. It's a 7-member court, 4 is the majority. I plainly saw it in May of 2010 as Tom Moyer sadly died prematurely, and knew what would happen. At the time, Ted Strickland was the governor. I knew he would make an appointment, not someone I would have wanted. So he makes that appointment, and then the Republicans run someone against him, they win, and a seat opens up. He appoints his failed lieutenant governor running mate to the Ohio Supreme Court, also not a person I would have chosen for my view of government. I ran against her. It was the race that could not be won. I was told to stop. I was not welcome. I would not win. But we did, overwhelmingly. That caused it. It's you. And I say that with great earnest because I cannot touch enough hands across Ohio, although God knows I'm trying. I've not come off the road in 4 years. My car sits in a parking lot with 327,000 miles, and I started this journey when it had 73,000. I broke down in the middle of the night, on the weekends, on beautiful days. I've waited patiently on the side of the road for family and friends so I could just go get a rental car, get back on the road, and get to where I was going. That makes the difference. And it makes the difference because if you leave here with one mission, It is to understand who the judges are that you will elect when the cheat sheet disappears, where the R's and the D's fall off. I need you to make a directed choice for a conservative with a liberal sounding name. Now, if the other side votes for me because they're confused, I'm okay with that. But I cannot survive unless you make that choice, make that decision, and tell your family and friends. The other part of the secret is we will flip the Ohio Supreme Court for the last time in my lifetime in the next 4 years. In 2016, 2 people will leave the court. Landner and Piper will leave the court permanently with our term limits, which is based on age. 2 unknown individuals walking and breathing right now in Ohio will become the next justices of the Ohio Supreme Court in that year. Who they are, I don't know. What they are, I do know what I want. And this is where you must engage. It will be difficult. I've been in politics a long time. I've worked on a lot of campaigns. I've seen a lot of heartbreak and a lot of losses. But every day you get back in the game and say, I can still make a difference because today is a new day. But I can't have this conversation in 2016 because I can't campaign for anyone. So I am putting your world on fire today with your mission. You must figure out who is the conservative, who will allow your voice to be heard through the legislative process, through our process, through this republic. And in 2018, you need to stand and do it again as 2 more permanently leave the court, as O'Neill and O'Donnell leave forever. 2 more. 2 more elected. Now I'm 52 years old. Most people who run are in their mid-50s to early 60s. Once you win your first statewide race, they venture that you're going to win again because incumbency has a kind of success to it. Not always, as we've seen, but usually. I will serve the rest of my days, God willing, at the Ohio Supreme Court, protecting and cherishing what I believe I was put on this earth to do. Our right to have a voice, to create the Ohio we want, not what somebody else sees, and certainly not what people in robes believe. I wasn't given a magical pen, nor were they. So in all earnesty, with all sense of urgency, I implore you to stay involved, to look at 16 and 18 beyond what happens federally or with the governor's race in those years and say, Ohio is at stake. Ohio is at stake because the court's at stake, and you must educate yourself. I am the 154th Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, despite all odds, because of people like you. People who cared, who learned, who helped me win an overwhelming victory across Ohio. God bless all of you, and with your vote on November 4th, I will remain the 154th Justice for the rest of my days, every 6 years. God bless you and thank you.